Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Art Show, featuring Victoria Chick, a contemporary figurative artist and early 19th and 20th century print collector. Welcome, everybody. You know, every third Saturday we get to talk about art and art history with artist Victoria Chick. Victoria is a contemporary figurative artist and early 19th and 20th century print collector based in Silver City, New Mexico. That's in the southwest region. And today we thought, hey, let's talk about art destinations across the country, because there's so many. Like, we think about New Mexico, automatically people are going to think Santa Fe. It's one of the biggest art markets in the country, if not the world. However, there are places like Silver City, which I know she's going to be talking about. And we decided, let's call on some of our friends, our Big Blend Radio friends. And so we're going to chat with Victoria in a few minutes here. And then head into a panel discussion. So everyone keep up with Victoria at victoriachick.com. But welcome back, Victoria. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Lisa. This is a great day.
It's exciting.
Gonna rain, and I get to talk to you about art.
I know. I love our time.
What could be better?
I really do. I've learned so much about art over the years, and I just recorded this panel conversation about art destinations across the country. And I think it's very difficult for me. I was trying to choose one. And as you know, Nancy and I travel full time. So we're seeing art everywhere, whether it's in museums or public art. You know how much we love the public art side of things. So I found that very difficult. And I wanted to talk about Central California. Then I wanted to talk about Southern California, because recently, and everyone, this will come up the first Saturday of August, we did an interview with Dorland Colony, Art Colony. Do you remember Dorland out in Temecula area?
When I was there, it hadn't quite started, but my friend started it. So yeah, I do know about it.
That's wild. And then I interviewed a lady, Noreen Ring, and she is a board member there. And she used to run Brandon Gallery, which is, I think, how we met you initially back in the Southern California days. We were all connected through Brandon. And she talked a little bit later about that after the airing. But that's, Fallbrook and Temecula is completely changed. And then Dorland went through a devastating fire. Remember that fire in Fallbrook, the Eagle Mountain fire burned, and then they rebuilt, and they're doing workshops. They're doing all kinds of things. Fallbrook, the Brandon Gallery, I did not know is no longer, which is sad to hear.
That was amazing. Yeah.
That was cool. So Fallbrook, I think it was it was an art destination to me when that's where we started our magazine, was Encinitas, Vista, Fallbrook, Oceanside, North San Diego, North and East San Diego. And I always thought that's an art destination, so it's interesting to see and hear how, they are resilient over there at Dorland. And it's great that artists have a place to kind of get away from everything and go create and have that time out to be able to do their art, which I think is cool. Right. And they have musicians and everything. So I have to, because we're going across the country, bring up California, and because that's how we all connected to begin with. And then you moved to Silver City. And so then said, Nancy and Lisa, you better come cover Silver City. It's another art community. And it is. So I love it. I love it. So we'll talk about that in a second. But I want to tell you who's on the show today. Coming up after we talk about Silver City, you will hear author Cliff Garstang. He is a phenomenal author and writer of short stories and novels. And he talks about, in fact, he's there now as we record this, Victoria. He talks about the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And when I got on their website, I understood just how important fine art museums are, and what you're doing in Silver City with you and your board and volunteers to create a fine art museum. It elevates everything. It just takes it from some art studios and galleries. There's nothing like it. And I got stuck in there. And some of the people that we've talked about, their art is in there. George Catlin, he's going to go take a photo for me of George Catlin's art is there.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, dude, you have to go. He says, okay, I'll go. He's going to see the samurai sword display and samurai
Right.
warrior, swords. That's amazing. They have a lot of Asian art, African art, European art. It's like everything is there. And so, anyway, so we went to Virginia. Then we went to Asheville, North Carolina, with our friends Steve and Karen Wilson, who own and run the Lion and Rose Bed and Breakfast in Asheville. And they talked about the River Arts District, which runs along the river, the French Broad, which leads into the Swannanoa River in Asheville, North Carolina. And this is an art hub for years. I mean, Thomas Wolfe, the writer, was there. O. Henry was there. Zelda Fitzgerald, she died there in a fire, in a psychiatric facility where they did the brain zapping. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Wow.
That's a whole other conversation. But a lot of writers, a lot of musicians come from that area. Warren Haynes comes from there, and I always bring him up. But this art district represents over 300 artists in like what is like old warehouses and what would be an industrial area. They cleaned up, and there's a conservation movement started historically by two women. And so there's this green pathway that people can cycle, walk their dog. There's dog parks. You can stop in at a brewery, go look at art. It's amazing. And I love it out there. So, and it all goes along the river. And these women did it so that they wanted the connection between the river, the arts, obviously, and the community so that it's all beautified and clean. So you take care of one of the oldest rivers in the world. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then we also we covered Asheville, we covered Virginia. Then we went out to Paducah, Kentucky, which is a UNESCO heritage site covering art. And travel writer Rose Palmer, who's also a quilter, she went there for a quilt show. And there's more than quilts. There's a lot of murals. And she just, I had no idea Paducah, Kentucky was so big into the arts. Did you? I mean, to even get it to be a UNESCO site, that's amazing.
No. See, that's the neat thing about having programs like this is that we get so focused in our own area. We're insular, and learning about what else is going on in the country is so broadening, so opening. And so really it's very exciting to hear about what other people are doing that are in sync with you.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And then, Austin, Texas, travel writer Sharon Kurtz just moved there from Dallas. And Dallas has a good art scene going too. But they have just opened a new art space. And we're doing this big interactive kind of art experience. Like when you go to the Van Gogh gallery, that experience where things are moving and they're using light and you're actually like within the painting, right? They did that for Frida Kahlo, Van Gogh. It's happening everywhere. Well, this is kind of like that. And it's in Austin, and it's kind of more like Meow Wolf. Is it meow or meow? Meow.
You got it. Yeah.
I'll just meow. Meow, meow.
Meow.
But it's kind of like that, and it's called Wonder Spaces in Austin. So what I found interesting in this conversation is when we say destinations, I think of like what you're doing in Silver City because it's got the galleries, like what Paducah, Kentucky, what Rose was talking about. But what is amazing to me is how, like Cliff, he's going the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. That's a destination. He will drive hours to get there. 4 hours, I think. And so that's his destination. Right. That's the importance of a museum. Sharon Kurtz, this Wonder Spaces, to her, that's a destination. Yes, Austin has all kinds of art and galleries and everything, but to her, that's a destination. So it's interesting to me about that word and how people came up with what, to them was a destination. I brought up Meyer Gardens and, of course, had to talk about Tucson and Ted DeGrazia,
Right.
But yeah. It's amazing.
Well, it's interesting that you say talk about destinations. I experienced that because I'm living in Silver City without a museum.
Hmm.
I long to go to a museum. Well, one of my very favorite artists of all time was had a retrospective in San Antonio, and I went to San Antonio, which is a lovely town and has
Hmm.
many what features worthy of travel to see. But this time I went there specifically to go to the art museum. I never went to the Riverwalk, and I didn't see the wonderful park. I didn't see the fabulous gardens that they've got. I just went there for this thing, and I was there for overnight, and it was a fabulous experience. But it was this particular art exhibition that I just had to see, and it was an all day trip to get there. Um, so yes, art is a draw for many people.
It is. It is. And I love that you're doing a museum. Well, you have the in Silver City. I mean, on general, because I know we've talked about art for years, and we've been covering Silver City thanks to you, Victoria. How many
Uh-oh.
artists? Because there's all these events that happen. Musical. I know there isn't there a print festival, a book festival, or a writing
There's
festival.
yes, there is the Southwest Festival of the Written Word, which is a several day festival. It's very important. It's only given every other year because it takes so much to pull it all together
Mm.
that volunteers do. So yes, there's that one. There's the Print Fiesta, and
Mm.
there's starting next week, July 22nd, we have the Silver City Clay Festival, which I think is almost 12 years old now. And it goes on, it's a week long. It's exhibition, it's selling pottery, like a lot of festivals do, but its education is kind of its reason for being. And we have ceramic artists and potters and sculptors that use clay, people that build houses out of clay. We've got all kinds of people here that give workshops, which are almost all sold out now. Um, they do these things every year, so I think the word is out
Mm.
that Silver City is a good place to be for if you're interested at all in anything related to clay.
It makes sense because you are at the Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument, which is isn't it
Yeah,
it's celebrating what 100 and something years now being a national monument. You've got the Gila Forest, National Forest, and also the wilderness area, one of the first wilderness areas in the country, one of the first national forests in
yeah,
the country. I mean, the history is deep, and you do have a lot of clay. And it is a
yes, we
mining
do.
community, a mining towns,
Yeah,
very
yes,
historic old mining towns. But also you have the University Museum that also shows off the pottery, right? So that would be like what you have.
right.
You have a Silver City Museum downtown that covers the history of Silver City, but then you have the actual because you have the Mogollon history of Native American people, including the Apaches, right? So that ties into it.
Well, so most of the university specializes Mogollon, but does include some other Pueblo type of tribe work. But the Mogollon Mimbres pottery is its main reason for being because it does have a fabulous collection. And of course, we're trying to start another museum, a fine art museum, because Silver City has a reputation of being a very good art community, and all it has is lots of galleries. There are probably I can't tell you how many artists live here. Uh, I'm guessing in a town of 9,000 people that we've probably got 200 artists living here that
Wow.
make their living doing art. But there's some other stuff too that's kind of interesting. I don't know. Have you heard about the Million Bones project?
Yes, in fact, we've seen it.
That
That's at
okay?
Bear Mountain Lodge. That is fascinating.
Yes. And as part of the Clay Festival this year, they are inviting people. They're providing the clay and inviting people to make additional bones to be part of this international exhibition. Which has been it's probably the most popular place it's been, or the most place where it was most seen is on the mall at the Smithsonian. It was where it was it was there for quite a while. Well, then they didn't know what to do with it, so the people that own the lodge they have lots of acreage, and they invited this exhibition to be placed on this property, so anybody can see it. There's a trail going up to it, and it's hard to conceive what a million bones looks like, but it's very, very impressive, and it's there to draw people's attention to all the genocide that's going on around the world. So it's very moving, and so part of the Clay Festival is that anybody can participate in a project like that. Part of the festival draws professional artists here to attend the workshops, and so it's a little bit of clay experience for everybody. So, and it's a yearly thing. It's a week long, and it joins other kinds of festivals that are here on a regular basis. So we have a number of yearly festivals that are really, really great.
You have the studio tours. That's normally in October, right?
Right.
That long weekend.
Yeah. We have a very strong art community, and they have a studio tour once a year, and then they also have a weekend. It's called Weekend at the Galleries. It's usually on Columbus Day weekend, and so that's always big. So and of course you come to Silver City, and it's kind of surprising because it takes a while to get here. We're up in the mountains. We're always about 10 to 15 degrees cooler than they are when they say what the temperature is in New Mexico. So it's cooler up here at 6,300 feet, and always pleasant. Right now we could use a little more rain, but that's okay. We're expecting it.
Actually, it's been pretty green. I thought when we came through New Mexico, it looks a little greener than it has. I've seen it when it really needed rain, and it just looked a little bit greener to me.
Yeah. Well, we'll have one good rain, and all the grass will turn green, and it'll look like Ireland for probably until fall. So that's good. All the trees are nice and green though, so that's pleasant.
Yeah, and, I love it.
Of course, one thing I do want to mention is you mentioned public art earlier, and we have a lot of public art, and it is courtesy of the talent and energy of school children and adult artist mentors, and a program called Youth Mural Project. And so Silver City is and the area around us has wonderful, wonderful murals. The kids develop the themes. They work out what should be in there. They're given a little bit of guidance by the professional mentor, and they are provided paints by business people who want a mural on their building. So it's a great program, and one of the things that people notice about Silver City is we do not have a graffiti problem because these murals are so great, and the kids have done them, and other kids respect what those kids have done. So it kind of goes on. There's probably approaching, I would say 80 murals now.
That's amazing. It really is. And it's so cool because it's so colorful too to walk through town like that.
Right. Some of them are ceramic murals. Some of them are painted murals. Some of them are done right on a wall, and some of them are done on canvas, and then the whole canvas is applied to a wall. So, and of course, there's a big trick in putting a mural on, but there's an even greater trick in putting them on with materials that last. And so they're very, very careful about that. Because so far conservation of the murals has not been a problem because they're just holding up so beautifully.
I wanted to touch on all of that too. You've got the public art, got the event, you've got like, I think it's the biggest free blues festival in the West or something, in Memorial Weekend Blues
Yes,
Festival.
yes,
There's a chocolate festival. There's
right.
all these festivals, like you're saying, it just goes on and on. You've got the artists, but the
Right.
culinary arts is also pretty high up on the list when you talk about Silver City. The restaurants are phenomenal. And so it just keeps going on and on and on. There's bed and breakfast you can stay in. It's just such a special, special place to go. But I want you to
Right.
just circle back around about the museum, because I know that this is such a big project to do and to get everybody on the same page, get the community involved. And it is severely expanded since you had the idea, right? And it's
Yeah,
gone into
yeah.
education. You're working on fundraising for an actual building, but you have all this arts that is donated. It's pretty amazing what is happening. So tell everybody about what you are doing with the museum, what the goals are. And, I think people may, donate. Come on, people.
Okay. Well, thank you for this opening, Lisa. But yes, we do need donations, financial donations. We have received a lot of art gifts for which we are very grateful, but now we need a place to actually house our museum collections. And so we are embarking on a fundraising project. We're hoping to raise $1,200,000 to purchase a building and rehabilitate it up to museum standards, or to purchase a piece of property and start from scratch. We're not sure yet what we're going to do. We'd like to be closer into town, just because everybody knows where town is, rather than too far out in the outskirts. But the important thing is the programming of the museum and the kind of art we've got. When I donated my collection of several hundred pieces of art I've collected in the last 47 years, I taught art history, and when you're young and out of college, you can't afford a Michelangelo. So I restricted my collecting to American art, and often I would not know anything about the artist whose work I saw. I would just be really attracted to the image of what it was. And I was collecting prints at the time, graphics, etchings, lithographs, and so forth that were signed. And when I retired from teaching, I started researching these things I'd collected, and I realized that many of the artists that did them were very popular in the day that they were working. Really early, of course, there were few museums. In fact, in the early years, the early 100 years of the United States, there were no museums. So things were passed down from families, and but as the 19th century came about, museums were gifted to communities, usually by somebody who was well off. Our museum is a grassroots museum, and everybody in town contributes. But we want to be farther than town. We want to benefit the whole southwest quadrant of New Mexico.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. There is no art museum between the Rio Grande, which is runs up the central spine of New Mexico, down to or over to Tucson, Arizona, and that's like going on 300 miles. So people in our area, kids in our area, don't have the opportunity that people, say, in Santa Fe do, kids in Santa Fe or kids in a larger town. So we're trying to remedy that by having the museum, number one, which is for everybody of every age. And we're also then, once the museum is done, our programming will be in the museum, and we will also have a little program a part of the museum was called an art center, where it's an art making portion of the museum complex.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, yeah. So we're trying to give everybody of every age and in an entire geographic area more of a chance to participate in art and to learn from art, to learn to solve problems through making art, and so forth. So it's a big undertaking, and we're going to be doing it incrementally
Mm-hmm.
because there's no way
Yeah.
we can do it all at one time.
That's why
So
I was laughing. I mean, I
so
remember when you first mentioned it, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, now we're going into education too. Now this plan just grew, and
yeah.
but you have help,
Well,
and I think that's awesome. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, we think of education as having to occur in a school, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not true. I mean, it does occur there, of course, but there's so much more that you can do to expand educational opportunity through a
Mm-hmm.
variety of other endeavors like art museums, like any
Mm-hmm.
kind of museum. So that's
And
what
it's
we're
good for
doing, and that's
tourism.
we. Oh, sure it is. Sure it is. We'd love to have tourists visit us.
Yeah, that's the other part, the economic benefit of this. And it's the
Right.
inviting the right people to your community too. It's responsible tourism and it's transformative
Right.
tourism because someone may
Yeah.
see something, no matter their age,
Right.
and go home and then go, hey, you know what? I'm going to take up pottery. I'm going to take up painting, or maybe I'm going to start traveling to more museums and read about it. You know, it can
Yeah.
change people's lives going to a museum.
And one of the things that we foresee doing in the future is, as far as tourism goes, is that we would like to have uh, an art experience for tourists through the museum, because lots of people come here, and I mean, you know as well as I do how beautiful the area is and how historic some
Mm-hmm.
of the buildings are and so forth. So we would like to have people come to a program where they can use art. We would provide materials, art materials, and so forth. If they could sign up for a day or a week at a fee for an art experience in Silver City. So they've got
Mm-hmm.
more than just memories that are that are kind of ephemeral. They've got a concrete thing that they can take home with them.
I love it.
So and we can, if there's an artist who is interested in a particular type of art, who would like to connect with other artists, we can connect them with local artists who are doing the same type of work.
Yeah, see, that's really cool. I mean, just how it grows and
Yeah,
grows and grows. And that's the beauty of grassroots and museums and the people that are curators and caretakers of the arts, interpreter
yep,
of the arts, and is something that's so crucial to everyone. And like I was saying on the show with the panel that we're going to air next, everyone, the arts is often what gets cut out of school. It's the first thing in budget cuts. And so that's where the nonprofits pick up. And like we're talking about
right.
all the museums and destinations, I think just about all of them, if it's either a small business or a nonprofit when it comes to the arts. And,
Yeah,
you're always supporting those. And, artists have to go out on a limb, literally, to make a living. You have to spend time creating, and then you have to put a
yes.
marketing cap on, which you don't want to do most of the time. It's like, no, just let me create, somebody else go sell it. That's not how it works. It's hard work. So, the art destinations, when there's an actual growing movement of a destination, it's a very cool thing. Our friend, Mary Rush, you remember Mary Gravel from Silver City, the artist? She did abstract
Yeah,
art. She moved to Camp Verde
uh-huh.
and she kept trying to leave Camp Verde, going, this isn't working for me. I don't see any art opportunities here. She kept trying to leave. And
Yeah.
every time she tried to leave, things fell through. So she was like, well, she said, God basically told her, you need to fix this. So she did. She went around and found all the artists in Camp Verde and created an art community, an art group. So,
Ah,
and they've already had like one exhibit in the library, seems to be the own, like it's different than Silver City, right? In regards to what you can do. Not many galleries, but there's a few, but she's just like, we need to get together. And from that, all the artists are like, I didn't know you were here. I didn't know you're here. So it's at the very, very
right.
beginning. And I think that's what it takes is people like you, people like her that go, hey, we need to stand up and, really tout the arts. And I just, admire you all doing it and whatever we can always do to support, we will because we know it helps people's quality of life. It helps the community's quality of life and it helps visitors and travelers to have some quality in their travel life as well. So very cool, Victoria. This is fun. Let's do another
Well,
one.
well, thank you, Lisa, and thank you for what you're doing to help people all around the country because artists tend to be quiet and and shy and not good business people. So having people like you to talk for us, make us talk for ourselves, is a good thing, and it is appreciated.
Well, I do have a big mouth. I'm supposedly an introvert. Did you know that?
I didn't. I did not say that.
Well, thank you so much, Victoria. Everyone, victoriachick.com. Go to our website and you also can learn more about the museum there, read her articles, see some of the collections, and also keep up with her on our bigblendradio.com site. She is here every third
Yeah.
Saturday, and we're off to hear about all these art destinations across the country from Texas and Kentucky to North Carolina and Virginia. So enjoy. Thanks so much, Victoria.
You're welcome.
So now it's time to talk about art across America. We've got some great guests joining us to have a little discussion about some of our finest places. And when it comes to art, it can be anything, really, when you think about it. But I think today we're going to be covering mostly maybe a visual art, some textile art, that kind of thing. And we've got five special guests joining us. We've got author Cliff Garstang. He's been on our show over the years talking about his books. And somehow art always sneaks into his books, I think. Right, Cliff? Is that right? You add
That's
art in there.
exactly right. That's exactly why I wanted to participate in this because visual art always has some influence on my writing.
Exactly. And Cliff is based out of the Shenandoah Valley region of Virginia. And he's going to be covering the Virginia Museum of Fine Art. So everybody's websites are in the episode notes of the podcast. But you can go to cliffordgarstang.com to learn more about Cliff. But we'll get to the destination in the second, but I want to bring everybody on. But I have to say, Cliff, that is a very I went on the website for Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, and then I had to pull myself out. That is a very dangerous place. Like you could spend probably a week in that museum, I think, and never be done. That is amazing, that museum. Really amazing. So I can't wait to hear more about it. We also have, so Cliff is in, I got to do this by region. Okay. So Cliff is in Virginia. So let's go to Pennsylvania. That makes sense, right? So we're going to bring travel writer Rose Palmer on the show. She's been on our show over the years, usually talking about unique cruises and barge cruises going down the Mekong River. You never know, but her website is quiltripping.com because Rose also loves quilts and likes to quilt. She's going to be covering Paducah, Kentucky, and I've got a link to her article about it. And man, I had no idea about Paducah, Kentucky being such an art destination. Welcome back, Rose. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. It's nice to talk for a change about one of my other passions. Usually, as you mentioned, it's travel and cruising, but today I actually get to talk about quilting.
That's cool. That is really cool. And for Kentucky, we've done a lot of barn quilt tours.
Yes.
You've seen that where a lot of barns have the quilts
Right.
on them?
Every state has them. Yes.
It's addictive because you go on these treasure hunts and then you're like, can I really pull over here? Is the farmer going to shoot me? I
No,
I
they wouldn't
have.
do that.
Well, no, I got chased. This is so true. We were going to Arkansas. We were in Arkansas. It was really early morning, and this is kind of when COVID was slowly waking up, but most parks were kind of closed or they were open without facilities. And we were just outside of Texarkana on our way to Hot Springs and to meet our friend Tiffany and Bob, who own and run Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast out near there. And anyway, there was all these swampy parks, right, with alligators and everything. So of course, Nancy and I want to go. And we found we were on our way to a park, and it is one of those areas where you could get shot. And I mean, it was just that beginning of the morning light, and there was this beautiful heron, and there was like the farmer out there doing his lawn mowing. And everybody, if you go to the east, I'm serious, Louisiana on up, this is not a normal area to mow by hand. Like you need to have one of those little tractor style things, right? And he's out there with his dachshund and two kids doing that. So we wave and everything's fine. But then Nancy says, stop, stop. And in this pond, in this farm, and just the lighting, it was that beginning of dawn, right? That just first early morning light. Here's the silhouette of this giant heron. It was beautiful. So I take the photo, and next thing I know, the farmer goes off, man. What are you doing? What are you photographing? What are you doing? And I'm like, dude, what's in that barn? So I start driving, and he starts chasing me on his lawnmower tractor thing on the back roads of Texarkana somewhere in a swampy land. So all I know is, you got to be careful where you go. So anyway, I don't know, Rose. I might have to start cruising like you, right?
It's highly recommended.
Yeah, so be careful on those barn quilt tours. I'm just saying, be careful. Be careful. Well, speaking of that region of the Southeast, we're also going to go to Asheville, North Carolina. Our friends Steve and Karen Wilson are on our show every first Tuesday with their Adventures in Asheville podcast. And they own and run the Lion and the Rose in the historic Montford district of Asheville. And Asheville is definitely an art town. And Cliff, it's an author's town too. Thomas Wolfe, O. Henry, the Fitzgeralds hung out there. So, yeah. Did you find any of that history at the Biltmore when you went, Cliff, to Asheville?
Oh, absolutely. I was fascinated by the history and the art too. I mean, it's basically an art museum in addition to everything else. Plus, Asheville has one of the greatest bookstores in the country with malaprops. So that's definitely a stop when you visit Asheville.
Ah, that is, then there's Powell's in Portland, Oregon. Just saying, that's dangerous. It's a very dangerous place where you can just hand over your entire bank account and just say, that's fine. Fill the car. It's all good. It's all good. So everyone, lion-rose.com is a place. And so, Karen, you guys are going to be talking about the River Arts District, right?
Yes, absolutely. That is our biggest arts district. We have plenty of other art, but that's the big one.
Okay. And so, being innkeepers, you also, you are in the culinary arts, and Karen makes killer brownies because she puts wine in them. Is that the secret ingredient? That is.
It is.
And Steve makes killer breakfast, but he also brews his own beer, which I think we should bring up because it's art. I'm just saying, it is art.
It is an art form. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that chocolate stout was off the hook. Incredible. I'll never forget that.
That came out good.
Because you put wouldn't you say that's one of the best batches of, did you say batches? I mean, what do you say, kegs that you've done?
Yeah, I say batches.
Batches, yeah.
I think that's one of the best you've done. Yeah. You had a little little peppery back end on that. That was good. Even Nancy was into it, So that was good. Yeah, Nancy's been converted to beer thanks to Steve, So, all right. So now we're going to go to the Southwest, and we have travel writer Sharon Kurtz, and she's on our show every second Wednesday talking about, wander the world with Sharon, because truly, even this year, she went, Machu Picchu. We just recorded her Vienna interview today. She has been to Slovenia, Canada. I mean, come on, Sharon, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you, and you're going to represent Austin, your new city. And
Yes.
everyone can follow Sharon at SharonKKurtz.com. Now, Rose and Sharon, I met them both through the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association that we do shows with them every second Tuesday, Friday, and third Monday. Rose, have you heard of Sharon or met Sharon at all?
Of course
Well,
I have.
Yes.
We
Rose
were
and
on
I
a-
were on a trip together. We went to Jordan together.
Yes, we did. Yes, and
Ooh.
we had a blast.
Wow.
Cool.
And you rode camels. I know you did.
Yes.
We rode camels. We saw all of Jordan in a wonderful 10-day trip. Highly recommend it.
Wow. So that was not a
That's nice.
cruising experience for you, unless you were sailing the ships of camels, right? The ships
No.
of the desert. Yeah. You're
No,
sailing camels.
I do other trips as well. I love to travel in all its forms, but recently I've been working with a lot of cruising brands, so which is why I end up talking about them more than anything else.
Mm. Well, I think the one that you did down the Mekong River, I think has to be a major highlight. And then the barge cruise too. But when we talk about art, I know we're talking art in America, but that cruise ship itself looked like a piece of art to me from the
Yes,
photos.
yes. So that we're talking about cruising with Pandau, and I just came back in March. I was cruising with them again on 3 different itineraries in India.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, at some
Ooh.
point, if you want to hear more about that, I'm always happy to share.
Well, we're going to be talking with her soon. I know we're going to be recording another interview with you this week. So, well,
Yes.
this is interesting because all of you on this show are world travelers. So, Cliff, does the Mekong River ring any bells for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've spent an awful lot of time in Vietnam for work, but also Laos and Cambodia. And so the rivers in that area are always fun to explore.
Hmm. Steve and Karen, did you guys ever go to Asia at all in your travels? I know you've done over 50 countries and Africa, a lot of Africa. You've gone to like Tonga and all kinds of places, but have you gone to Asia at all?
Yeah, we've done a few places.
Okay.
Thailand more than anything.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
we were
Yeah.
by River
Our
Kwai, I
experience-
think, one time, right?
Yeah, River Kwai, we did that historic area, and then our experience, we didn't get to do the Mekong River, but we went fishing for some the Mekong catfish, so that was quite an experience.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow. They are always traveling either for music or wildlife. That's the reality of it. So they are
Mhm.
known as Mr. and Mrs. Wild. Sharon, what about you? Have you been to Asia?
Yes, I've been to Thailand and Hong Kong and China.
Wow. This is cool. I like it that you guys are all world
Mhm.
travelers. And then we get to talk about America today. And I think that's what's really fascinating when you think about, of course, we've got our indigenous people of America, and then everybody else that came here, either by force or, wanted to have some freedom, some maybe religious freedom or whatever. They came out here.
Mhm.
But through travel is how art also cultivates in different communities, I believe. So we start to learn from each other. And if you think about the history of American art, it really comes from different, other than the indigenous people, as I was saying, different cultures that come over here. And I find it fascinating how people congregate, like, they'll go up into the New York side and then next thing you know, they're moving down to the Southwest, and the Southwest, because of the open skies, and it has to do with lighting, I think, a lot of times, how artists have moved around. But today, let's talk about some destinations. And I started off with you, Cliff, talking about the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And everyone, the website for that is vmfa.museum. And again, the links will be in the show notes. But is this a place, because I know you love music too, right? So the arts, I know art but art is art, no matter what, whether it's writing, music, or film or visual arts, right? But this is a place, it sounds like, that you've been to more than once.
Definitely. It's in Richmond, Virginia, which is about 100 miles from where I live. And I've been a member of the museum for quite a while, even though I can only get down there a couple of times a year. But there's also always a special exhibit going on there in addition to the regular collections, which also rotate because they have a huge collection and not an infinite amount of space to display it in. So the particular exhibit that's happening right now, and the reason I wanted to talk about it was because on Thursday I'm going down to Richmond to see this exhibit of samurai armaments. And as you know, I've spent a lot of time in Asia, and I've been to Japanese castles, and
Wow.
and I've always been somewhat fascinated by samurai warriors. So this is an amazing exhibit that we're going to have. A group of us are going to have a private tour of on Thursday, and I can't wait to see it. But normally when I go to the museum, I head right to the Asian art wing, which has a little bit of Japanese art, a little bit of Korean art, a little bit of Chinese art, all of which I've studied over the years. And so that's where I start. But there's everything in the museum, a great European painting collection, lots of American art, of course, sculpture, photography, you name it.
It's amazing. On their website, they say they explore nearly 50,000 works of art spanning 6,000 years of world history. And general admission is always free. That's amazing. And they're open 365 days a year. That's pretty unique. And I mean, I was looking at it, just the art is, yeah, I need to go. That's all I have to say is because I got stuck in there and I didn't have time to be stuck in there, but I got stuck in there and I got in trouble time-wise today because of it. And, they also do education. Obviously an art museum is, educational, but it seems that they do classes as well for folks of all ages, which is cool,
They absolutely do. And, although admission to the general museum is free, there are ticketed exhibits like the samurai exhibit, but that's the advantage of having a membership because I don't have to pay for those tickets. So that's great. And it is unbelievable that it's open year round because that requires a lot of staffing and money to run a museum like that. One of the things I really love about the museum is that it is manageable. Yes, they have a huge collection. It's a very big building, but it's not like going to the Met in New York. I mean, the Met requires days and days to see it all, but VMFA is manageable in a shorter amount of time. Plus, there's parking, which a lot of museums in big cities you can't get to because of parking. So it's really great. And they also have joint programs with other arts organizations in the state and also with literary organizations. So I've been involved with the Library of Virginia over the years, and there's an annual award that is jointly presented by the Library of Virginia and the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts for arts writing, which I think is a very cool thing that they do. And one other special thing that they do around the state, they have this big semi, I guess. It's not a bus, it's some truck, I guess. And so they bring art to the further reaches of Virginia so that communities that are at some distance from Richmond who don't really have access to fine arts can visit that traveling exhibit and see some of the collection from Richmond, which I think is such an important bit of outreach to share that beauty with everybody.
Exactly. That's a huge thing. I mean, the arts are often closed off to people that may not have the financial ways to do it, and just even the ways to get to another city, right? That might be completely, especially for parents, to take their kids, right? It can be really a difficult thing to do. So having that, those traveling exhibits, traveling museums, traveling libraries, oh my gosh, the traveling libraries are huge. It can change a kid's life immediately, right? You never know what can come from that. And the arts get cut down out of school budgets immediately. The arts, sports gets to stay, but the arts, sorry, no music for you. But we can make money off of sports tickets, so that gets to stay. I'm not knocking sports. I'm just saying this is what happens. And so, talking about these destinations, some things, it's why I'm a huge, huge fan of public art. It's huge because it helps the artists. They actually get paid for it most of the time. It's really good for a community, and it betters a community. It beautifies a community, often tells the history and story of a community, and it's free for patrons. And how many times as travelers, we all travel, get to a city, maybe late, or you just want to take a walk around and you're not ready to do the tourist thing quite yet. And you can just take a walk where you are, and maybe in a historic downtown or a downtown city, and there's public art right there, and you start to ease into the community through public art, I believe. And if there's a pandemic, you can still see it. So it's a good activity for pandemics. So these kind of mobile projects, Cliff, are huge, like the libraries. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's amazing they can do that too, by the way. I think that's cool. What's Richmond like to visit too? Just as, like you're saying, you can park there, you can do all things like, is there good lodging nearby? It looks like they have a restaurant on site, maybe, and they have a gift shop, but they got a couple of restaurants, so you can eat while you're there. Just don't take it near the paintings.
Well, I have to say that one of my favorite things to do when I go to that museum or any museum is to eat in the dining room, have a glass of wine, just relax and enjoy what I've seen or what I'm about to see. It's really one of my favorite things to do. And that museum has 3 restaurants, including a tea room, which is new, and I haven't yet visited that one. But Richmond is quite a cultural city. It has 2 symphonies. It has other museums besides the art museum. It has amazing restaurants. It's really quite a foodie city, and there are hotels all over the place. When I did, my book came out in February, and I did a reading at one of the historic bookstores in Richmond right afterward. And so I drove down there and I stayed at this fantastic historic hotel in an area called Shockoe Bottom, which is dripping with history. And that was fantastic. And then found a great restaurant afterward to relax after my reading. And it's a very cool city.
That's now, everyone. That's The Last Bird of Paradise. Tell everybody about the book, because you bring in art. So I gotta do this. I know we're jumping outside the country with this, but you have America in there too.
Yeah, it starts in America. So the book is about an American lawyer, a woman from New York, who after 9/11 moves to Singapore with her husband, who has taken a job in a bank there. And Singapore is relevant because I lived there for 10 years, so I'm quite familiar with the city. And one of the things she does when she gets there is buy 3 paintings. And the 3 paintings were done in 1914 or 15 by an English artist who also moved to Singapore. That was right at the beginning of World War I, and she was sort of exiled there for safety reasons and other reasons. And so the book is really about art, those paintings, and some contemporary painter that befriends this New York lawyer. And the connection really for me is that the main character, this New York lawyer, looks at the art, and the paintings come alive for her because she really believes in the narrative power of the arts. And so she looks at a painting and it's telling her a story. And in the case of these old paintings, the story that's being told is the history of colonialism in Singapore. So, art is definitely wrapped up in that novel.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. Cliff is an awesome author. I'm just going to tell you all, get on it. CliffordGarstang.com. Just saying. I'm going to go over to Rose. And before we go there, we were talking about Richmond, Virginia. Anyone on the podcast here that has been there and wants to add in anything about it? Okay. Rose, was that you?
No, have not been.
Was it you, Steve, that says yes? You want to? I'm not saying you all have the same voice. I just heard like multiple voices.
I got family that lives up in that area, actually from Midlothian, right outside of there. And my uncle took Karen and I down there to see the Confederate statues while they were still there. And then there's a fort, I think, at the end of that road. That was really impressive.
Yeah, he was telling us about the history.
Wow. Yeah, Richmond, when you talk about history, it's complex. Like, it's deep, complex, and wow. Sharon, have you been there?
Mm-hmm. No, I have not.
Well, I hope you go now. I think we should all be going there for sure. So, yeah, let's go to you, Sharon. Let's go to Austin. Tell us about Wonder Spaces.
Well, Wonder Spaces is a new museum for Austin. It's an interactive art museum, and it offers visitors a unique and immersive experience. It combines art, technology, and interactive installations. So it is in a 28,000 square foot building, and they have 14 exhibits. So you can picture in your mind maybe Meow Wolf, which is an interactive museum and experiential, but our museum are temporary exhibits that rotate, and Meow Wolf are probably bigger installations, and those are permanent. But this is the really cool thing, I think. You can drink at this museum. That's an important part. They occasionally offer classes and experiences that incorporate bar drinks as part of the overall experience. So you can just imagine a first date, a couple going to the interactive museum, or, but they take families go, and kids can run around, and it's just really a fun, colorful place.
Because even when you go on their website too, I think it's perfect for Austin and everyone go to, if you can go to austin.org and type in Wonder Spaces, it comes up, and, the website itself, let me go right to their site itself, is austin.wonderspaces.com, again in the episode notes, but it's interactive with color and everything. But Austin it's like the Silicon Valley of Texas, really.
Yeah. We embrace, that is the perfect place for this museum, because we embrace anything unusual, and we embrace live music, and any art, expression of art is welcome in Austin.
Keep Austin weird. I'm serious. You need to. So many housing developments are like, I think that threatens Asheville too, a little bit, is so many people moving in so fast. It's like, you want to keep the integrity, the quirky, the weird, the historic. You've got to keep it all, and not, just don't sell out, man. I think that's so important in destinations, is to not just
be who you are.
Yeah.
Authentic.
Keep your authentic character, for sure. But yeah, when you go on the site, austin.wonderspaces.com, it's like, did you go on Rose and Sharon, did you go on the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association conference last year on the Princess Cruise, where they had
I was there. Yes, I was.
I was not.
Yeah. Okay. So did you do the captain's dinner thing where it was that 360 experience?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Okay. That's what I think this kind of looks like, where, like, can you explain that dinner? Because this is a unique thing for art, like a culinary experience.
It's a multi-sensory experience that involves all of your senses. So you're in a circular room, and they project a story, a video movie on the screen. It's a storyline, and with each course, it ties into the story. And then they also there's projections onto the table, so the look of the table changes in terms of, like, think of it as a digital tablecloth. And then, digital plates underneath your real plate. Smells or odors are wafted in that go along
like lavender,
with the food, like lavender or lemon.
Yeah.
it's I don't want to give too much away for people who have not experienced it, but it was it's one of the most memorable meals and interactive experiences I've ever done.
It's
Well,
cool.
let me tell you about one of the exhibits here at Wonder Spaces. So let's see, where did my notes go? Hold on. Here we go. It's called.
It's going to be a cocktail, right? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, maybe you'd have one in your hand, but it's called Submergence by a art company called Squid Soup, and it's an immersive installation featuring 8,064 individual points of light. Visitors walk through it, and the lights continually change colors in correspondence to the music. So it's interactive and experiential. And
so when you move, it moves with you, right?
Yeah. That changes or,
That's wild. That's wild. That gets mathematical. Cool. See how that's mathematical. When you think about the arts and what it does for our brains, it does. The music, math and music go hand in hand, and the same with the arts, understanding depth, perception, all of that. But then that's getting technical on top of it. Right.
Yes.
So, the arts are important for our brains. Just saying, just want to keep the arts funded. I'm serious about it. I'm deeply serious about it. It's so important. And these experiences, when it's out of this world with these interactive ones, right? I know we can whine about AI and carry on, but part of it is AI when they put it together, I think. When they put this, I remember contributing, national park footage and film that we'd done for the Philadelphia Flower Show. And it was the centennial of the National Park Service. And at the flower show in the evening, they were doing like this video. It was like, it's a different, it's not interactive, but it was going up on the sides of all these buildings of national parks, all this footage put together. And I just wish I could be there because I was the only person with Oregon Cactus National Monument for them to be able to use it. But it was like this whole artistic thing I don't know if anyone's been to the flower show in Philadelphia, but it's one of the best and oldest. You have?
Oh yeah. I don't live far from Philly. I think I've gone almost every year since we moved here.
It's amazing. We did a show on them. I'm going to say a few years ago, about maybe 7 years ago, they were on the podcast, and this was before the National Park Centennial. I don't know, but they said their flower show at that time was also going into abandoned houses. They went in and decorated abandoned houses with flowers so people could walk through these old abandoned homes in Philadelphia and find the beauty in these historic homes. And hopefully somebody would buy them and fix them,
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, abandoned homes are kind of cool. Cliff, don't you think an abandoned home is a good setting for novels?
Oh, that would be a great setting. Sure.
Yeah.
Very, very mysterious. In fact, I just read a novel by a friend of mine that involved rebuilding an abandoned home and then finding something mysterious in the walls. So that would be very cool.
It is cool. Like everybody I know who has historic homes, they find stuff, and they were calling them ghost houses. Steve and Karen know what it's like to have a historic home. I mean, you've got a Victorian mansion on your hands. How does that feel? Steve?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Steve, how much work is it? It's like when one thing goes wrong,
more than I want to think about.
More? Yeah, I know. I don't bring that up to you, but it is your home. Is
one thing, and then something else comes up.
Yeah, one thing leads to
another. But there's nothing like a historic, like historic home.
Oh, yours is
make
beautiful.
It like the same more.
I mean, that says, how old is it? How old is your B&B? Like from
ours is 1898.
Wow. And the Montfort Historic District, is it 600 historic homes?
Yep.
And you're by the cemetery. The cemetery behind their inn, like it's a few blocks away. That's where Thomas Wolfe is buried, O. Henry, and all of that. And then down the road from them is a sanatorium where Ella Fitzgerald died in that fire. And they say when you go on the tram, the Gray Line, they tell you they have a ghost and mystery tour, historical mystery tour, that they take you on the Gray Line, and they'll tell you at certain times at night you will smell burnt hair from Zelda Fitzgerald.
Oh,
right by the sanatorium. Yeah. It was back in the day where they zapped people, but the zapping is coming back. I've talked to psychologists
really?
who, yes, the zapping thing where they zapped people in the brain. Anyway, this is so far off of art destinations. So since we talked about the Montfort Historic District, let's not talk about burnt hair unless you want to put it in a mural. Let's go to you guys in Asheville. Steve, Karen, tell us about the River Arts District. It's 300 artists there or something, right?
Yeah. It's now over 300 artists. It's unbelievable. It's spread over a couple of miles along the French Broad River, so it's a nice setting. Small artist galleries, big artists in like the old industrial warehouses, so you have several artists, anything and everything you can imagine, from pottery to jewelry to paintings, you name it, you'll find it. It's such a cool spot.
And breweries in between.
Yep.
Yes.
We have to bring that up since you're Beer City, USA. And so where we were the other day with you, and we went on that walking the green pathway, the Wilma Dykeman Greenway, which really it goes along the French Broad River, which I found out is one of the oldest rivers in the world, is in Asheville.
Yep.
And there are all these amazing women that help clean up the river and teach the community to keep it clean. But there's like a green pathway, so you can walk your dog and then go and see a gallery. I mean, it's pretty cool to see like health be connected to the arts, like in an urban setting. And so you've got a lot of murals too in Asheville. We can touch on that. Like there's a lot of murals.
Yeah, there's a lot in the River Arts District, and they now have a South Slope area mural trail. So that's the South Slope area is where the breweries are basically, but a lot of them have added murals on their buildings, so now they have a new trail where you can walk. Well, think about it. You can hop in a brewery and grab a beer and then go see the next mural at the next brewery.
I'm not going to complain. And then, well, you had there was mural tours too. You had the lady on the podcast the other few months ago talking about mural tours in and outside of Asheville.
Yeah, so exactly, because West Asheville's another spot. We have art everywhere around. I mean, it's just overwhelming. A lot of creativity around here.
It's cool. So Asheville, everyone, lion-rose.com. Go there, check it out. I've got the links on everything. And Riverside Arts District, just go to riversideartsdistrict.com. I want to go over to you, Rose, in regards to Paducah, and we've got the link to your article on this. This is like a UNESCO creative city, right?
Yes, it is. And I think many people don't realize that UNESCO has this category. We all are aware of UNESCO's designations for cultural sites like Machu Picchu or, all these other places. There's over 1,000 of them all over the world. But they also have this category of creativity cities in 7 different creative fields. And one of them, for which Paducah is recognized, is the crafts and folk art category. We have, last I read, we have 9 creativity cities in the U.S., including Tucson, for its culinary arts, and Austin for its music heritage. So it's, that shouldn't surprise people. But Paducah is known for its craft and folk art heritage, specifically for its contributions to the quilt making and the quilting heritage across the United States. And it's called Quilt City. That's its nickname. So there's a couple of reasons. So it was designated a creativity city in 2013. Quite a few years before that, the largest quilt museum was established in Paducah, the National Quilt Museum. And most of you, when you think of quilts, you probably think of, your grandma's log cabin quilt. If you go to the Quilt Museum, I think you'd be blown away by some of the more modern quilts that are displayed there, because they are truly pieces of art. Their collection is over 650 pieces that they've collected over the years. And you will see some traditional pieces. So their display rotates and pulls out quilts from their collection. But so you will see some of the traditional quilts that would have been done in America's history, and maybe from the 1800s, early 1900s, or even into the 1970s. You might see a quilt made with polyester. You might even recognize some of the fabrics, right? But if you look at the today's quilts, you will see pieces of art, and many of the quilts that go into the collection today are as a result of one of the major quilt competitions and conventions that goes on in Paducah every spring. It's called Quilt Week. It's put on by the American Quilt Society. And besides displaying quilts that people submit for that week, they also have a lot of classes. And then of the quilts that are displayed during Quilt Week, it's essentially, it's a competition. And the best ones in each category end up in the museum, and the winners get remunerated for having to give up, hundreds of hours of work making one of these quilts, because they don't get it back if they're the winner of one of the major categories. But they truly are major pieces of art.
Yeah. We interviewed an artist, Nancy Hirschberger, by the way, from Pennsylvania. And she does quilt painting. Like it's a whole different style of, we always think needlepoint with quilts, but she does quilt painting.
Oh,
and that's a whole, And so they go up, she uses ink, oil, acrylic paints, fabric, and thread, and they go up on a wall like a painting. So they're like art quilts. Really fascinating. Yeah. I'll send you links, to that. But I wanted to ask you, have you ever seen the documentary with Ken Burns and all his quilts?
No.
Oh my gosh. You need to see that.
Yeah. He's quite the collector. Yep.
He is like avid about quilts, and they all tell a story. Doesn't each design mean something? There's symbology of families, like almost like clans in Scotland. The quilts have different symbols that mean different things. Depending, like if it's older, right? And then now people are doing the painting, I suppose. Yeah.
And each region kind of has its characteristic styles, and each era has its characteristic styles, as you might imagine, because, as traditionally quilts were functional. Now we oftentimes tend to use them as pieces of art, but they certainly started out as function, as a way of recycling fabrics and making them into something warm.
I love quilts. I mean, they're amazing. And, it's bed and breakfasts have quilts. But quilts are, they are, yeah, you guys do. I mean, it is pretty amazing when you think about how much time goes into it. And luckily sewing machines have evolved now too for folks to make them, This is incredible, this panel of discussion of so many different forms of art. Tucson, you mentioned Tucson. So we became a UNESCO city, and that's where we are right now. And this is our home. This is where our storage unit is. So that's our home, I suppose. But, Tucson, became a UNESCO, heritage site for gastronomy and the food culture here, which is incredible. It's really Mexican. We love Mexican food, but it's different when you come here. Just saying, it is just such a diverse blend of cultures. Native American, you got Mexican, Spanish, colonial sides of things too. But the art districts, there's what's called the Turquoise Trail downtown that you can follow. It's you can go into the Barrio district, and then if you go to you got to go get Barrio bread. There's museums, the art museum and the history museum here, the State Museum is incredible. There's also Ted DeGrazia. We do a podcast on one artist. Think of it. Every fourth Sunday. And Ted DeGrazia is just he's the most reproduced artist in the world. And his gallery, he built his gallery by hand with the Tohono O'odhams and also just other tribes too, and Mexican, the Yukots too. I'm saying it wrong. I got it wrong. I'm not saying it correctly, but the Kashans and also the Yaquis, that's it. And also the Mexican peoples that he befriended. And they built his gallery, and it's an adobe style. He also built a mission, and also he has a smaller gallery in his residence, all adobe. And when you go in, the front is a replica, the gate into the actual gallery itself. It's a 10-acre National Historic Site. The gate itself into the adobe part of the gallery is formed after the Yuma Territorial Prison in Yuma, Arizona, which was one of the wildest prisons, that in the West. And so that was formed after that. But you go in and the floors are made out of cholla cactus. It's crazy. And it's all polished off and everything. So they have all these displays that are permanent exhibitions. And then they go in their archives and rotate new exhibits all the time. And, he's a very prolific Southwest artist, became very famous for his art. He was a capitalist. He loved Chivas Regal. And there's lots of stories with him and celebrities. Like even when Paul McCartney showed up at his door, he said, "We're closed." Because it was closing time. It was time for him to have his Chivas Regal. So he closed the door. But he used to drink with Lee Marvin, all kinds of people out here, because we also had the film studios. So all the creatives. Tucson is a hub of creativity and also a lot of Art Deco buildings. We have a Modernism Week that happens every fall. But DeGrazia Gallery architecturally is phenomenal. And his art really depicts the Southwest. He also wrote and was really interested in Padre Kino, and all the missions that were put together here. We have San Xavier del Bac, which is the most prolific. It is the most preserved piece of Spanish architecture we have in the country. Architectural interest. It is incredible. It's known as the White Dove of the Desert. So he painted the people. He painted the rodeos. He painted the culture, and he got to know the people. He was a salt of the earth human being. And he went and apprenticed with Diego Rivera and Jose Orozco down in Mexico. But he came from a tiny little mining camp in Morenci, Arizona, lived in Italy. His family is Italian, came back. He's a musician. He also created this huge thesis, became famous, of painting and color and how it connects with music. And each color represents music. So anyway, it's crazy. There's always a new story. I mean, we've been covering this gallery and this artist for, I can't even say, at least 15 years or something crazy. 10, 15 years. I don't know, but there's always a new story. But Tucson itself has a huge mural program, huge public art. There's a warehouse district full of art and artists, kind of like the River Arts District in Asheville, but in the desert. So, I was going to cover somewhere else, but now I suppose I had to do Tucson. Thanks, Rose. But it's awesome. It is. I mean, the Southwest really brings people here because of the big open skies, the colors of the desert, the clouds. It is. And driving, we just drove from Stephen Cairns and Asheville to here. And the change, as soon as you cross over the border in Oklahoma, you're like, wow, okay, that's that. We're now in the Southwest. Boom. You are there at that, it is open. The skies are different. Both have their beauty, but artists went back and forth over it in history. So it's really cool. So I want to go in closing here, to each of you and ask an art destination that you have not been to that you want to go for art purposes. So I'm going to start with you, Karen. Where would you like to go next that you haven't been that there's art?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I would say to somewhere now.
Yeah, that definitely sounds interesting. Yeah. I would say somewhere like Paris or Italy. just because same thing, that European would be a different style and we haven't explored a lot of that. So it would just be different to see all the statues, all the different galleries. That would be my choice, Paris or Italy.
What about you, Steve?
I don't know, maybe the Metropolitan up in New York or something like that.
Remember, you're going to pay for parking. Cliff said so. You better take a different mode of transport.
I'll take a taxi.
Cliff, yeah, a taxi. That's it. You know, you have to. Cliff, what about you?
I'm trying to think of an American art destination other than the ones that we've been talking about today that I have not been to, but I'm having trouble coming up with one. So I'm going to say London for the British Museum. I've been to London, but I was there for work and I didn't get to see museums. So I'm going to London to check out the art.
Oh, and you got to go to the castles because you'll see the portraiture is insane.
Right.
Yeah, it is insane. So what about you, Sharon?
I think I would go to Brooklyn. I've been to New York quite a bit. I've been to the Met, but I have heard really good things about the Brooklyn Museum of Art. And, there's all creative people up there, and I would just like to go check that out. Other than the Venice Biennale, I've always wanted to do that. That's the big art show. There's one in Miami Beach. There's one in Venice. It's like, I don't know, once every 4 years. I'm not quite sure, but those two places.
That sounds cool.
Nice.
Now, what about you, Rose?
So, well, first of all, in answer to Sharon's location, Brooklyn also has a very popular and well-known mural neighborhood. So if you're going to Brooklyn, you make sure you check that out.
I'll do it.
But I would like to go to Portugal. I have not been to Portugal, and I have to imagine that they must have some very interesting art.
Yeah, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of murals, Paducah has murals too. That was another part of it. They have murals.
They do. So their flood wall, because it's on the river. They decided to decorate their flood wall. They've got over 50 murals that depict the history of Paducah. Really, really pretty.
Cool.
I love that. And Kentucky, really, the arts, we went through Louisville and they have a whole arts district too, just recently. And they have a giant golden sculpture of David in all his glory. He's a giant glorified David. So if you get downtown Louisville, go look for David. You will not be disappointed. He's glorious. I'm just going to say everyone should do that. Our country really does have a lot of places, and we do a lot of small town, destinations with our parks travel. And I was going to talk about the Sequoia region, Kings Canyon, Sequoia National Parks. The communities surrounding that have gazillions of murals. These small agricultural towns, public art, really showcases that history. So, sometimes they're not quite the destination yet, but it starts with that public art. So that's one of those places. But I cannot not say this. On our tour, we've been pretty much everywhere in this country, not all the way done. We're never done. But Meyer Gardens in Grand Rapids, Michigan was a jaw-dropping experience. Here is a botanical garden, some of the world's finest horticultural displays. It's a sculpture park. It is ranked among the most visited art museums worldwide and named the best sculpture park in the United States. And there's over 200 sculptures. Everyone's in there, Picasso to Rodin, you name it. And then they have exhibits that come in and out. They have a Japanese tea garden and garden. They have it. That was incredible to be able to walk among the sculptures, and you can take a tram around because it is a big garden. It was summer too, get a little hot out there, but it is like art history on display in a glorious garden. And it was all started by Frederick Meyer, who ran grocery stores out there. So they even had like a little farm area talking about the history of the grocery stores and the farms. So it's Grand Rapids, Michigan. Who would know? But it was definitely a place to put on your list if you're an art lover that blows your mind. But we've been I don't know. I think we're going to have to revisit our map now and start adding, because y'all want to go overseas. I'm telling you, we got stuff here, but they all come from people overseas. So there it is. There's a lot of great American artists too. And George Catlin is in your museum. When you go to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, please go see him for me. George Catlin, an amazing American artist that has done so much. So please, Cliff, go see him for me and say hi.
I'll take a picture, send it to
you.
Do.
Please do. I mean, that's the story of him is incredible. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us again. Sharon Kurtz, go to SharonKKurtz.com, quilttripping.com. That's 1 T, not 2, quilttripping.com for Rose Palmer, and then lion-rose.com for Stephen Karen's Bed and Breakfast, and cliffordgarstang.com. Again, all the links are in the episode notes. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. You can view Victoria Chick's artwork at victoriachick.com. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com.